Chosen one, notice what your body is doing right now. There is something compressed in your chest, a weight that has been there so long you stopped expecting it to lift. The weight of a season that asked everything and returned silence. The weight of faithfulness no one witnessed. The weight of doing the right things in rooms where no one gave you credit, and waking up the next morning to do it again. Feel that for a moment. I am not going to rush past it, because that weight is not permanent. It was never meant to be permanent. And the reason it is about to lift is not a miracle arriving from outside your life. It is the completion of something you built. It all comes to an end tomorrow. Not the calling, not the journey, not the purpose, the underground season, the hidden season, the season of doing the right things with no audience. That season has a completion point, and that completion point is not random divine favor. It is tied directly, causally, to what you have done. Most teachings will tell you to wait, but waiting was never the whole story, because while you were waiting, you were also being formed. You were making choices, you were becoming someone, and that becoming had consequences you could not see at the time. You are about to see them. Before I go any further, I want to ask you to stay with this message all the way through, because by the time this is over, you will understand 3 things that most people in your position never get to understand. Exactly what the hidden season was building in you, why your faithfulness was not passive but causal, meaning it produced something real, and what specifically is ending because it is not what you think it is. That last one changes everything. Stay with me. Let me start with where you have actually been. There is a season in every chosen one's life that I want to describe, and I want you to tell me if this is familiar. It is a season where you are doing the right things. You are showing up. You are faithful to something, a calling, a prayer, a commitment you made to who you were becoming, and the results are nothing you can see. The return is invisible. The feedback is silence. And the silence is so complete that it starts to sound like an answer. It starts to sound like the universe saying, maybe not you, maybe not this, maybe you made a mistake somewhere. If that is your experience, I want you to hear what I am about to say very carefully. You did not make a mistake. The silence was not an absence of movement. It was the sound of something growing underground. There is something that happens in nature that I want you to hold in your mind throughout this entire message. When you plant a seed, there is a period, sometimes weeks, sometimes much longer, where nothing visible happens. The ground is still. From the outside, you have no evidence that anything is working, and yet underneath, the seed is doing the most critical work of its entire existence. It is sending roots into the dark before it ever reaches for the light. What you have been in, chosen one, is the root season. Now here is what I want you to understand about why that season was not a detour. The first thing the wilderness does is form in you what comfort cannot. There are qualities, resilience, depth, a quiet authority that does not need anyone's applause to remain standing, that can only be built in hard seasons. You cannot import them from somewhere easier. You cannot download them in a moment of breakthrough. They are formed slowly, layer by layer, in seasons exactly like the one you have been in. And those qualities are the specific capacities that what is coming next will require. The second thing the wilderness does is drive your roots deeper than they would have gone in easier ground. A tree that has grown where water is always available has shallow roots because it never had to search. A tree that has grown in dry and difficult ground has sent its roots so deep that when the storm comes, it does not move. What felt like deprivation in your season was not punishment. It was the forcing of depth. And depth cannot be rushed, and depth cannot be faked. Depth is the one thing that holds when everything external starts shaking. The third thing the wilderness does, and this is the one most people miss, is that it moves the calling from something you know about to something you are. When you first stepped into your purpose, you understood it intellectually. You had clarity about direction, but the years of walking it in obscurity, of remaining committed when commitment felt irrational, of choosing it again and again, when no one would have blamed you for choosing something easier, those years did something to you. They internalized it. The calling is no longer a destination you are heading toward. It is the substance of who you have become. There is a man in ancient wisdom who walked the exact path you have been walking. His name was Joseph. And if you know his story, you know it did not look like a straight line. He was a man with a vision of greatness, and the immediate consequence of that vision was betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. He went from having a dream about his future to sitting at the bottom of a pit, surrounded by people who had decided his calling was arrogant and his vision was delusion. But here is what the record shows about Joseph in those hidden years. He worked. He was faithful in Potiphar's house. He was faithful in the prison. He managed well. He showed up fully to whatever he had been given, not because the situation deserved his full presence, but because something in him understood that who he was in the dark was shaping who he would be in the light. The pit did not form Joseph into a victim. It formed him into a man who could hold power without being corrupted by it. The prison did not break him. It built the specific kind of interior strength that governing Egypt would demand. You are Joseph in the prison. You have not yet seen the palace. But you have been building, in the hiddenness, the exact qualities that the palace will require. The seed is still underground. For now. But here is what I want you to hold on to. The underground season has a completion point. There is a moment when the root work is done, and the seed does not ask permission to break the surface. It simply does. Because it is the nature of things faithfully tended, they arrive. That arrival is coming. And the reason, the specific reason, is where I want to go next. Because understanding the purpose of the season is only the beginning. What I really want you to understand is not what was being done to you during this time. It is what you were doing. There is a principle older than any motivational system, older than any spiritual tradition in its modern form that I want to show you now. And when you receive it, not just know it, but actually receive it as personally true, it will permanently change the way you read the last years of your life. There is something I want to state plainly. What is coming to an end in your life is not arriving by accident. It is not because divine favor randomly decided to shift in your direction. It is not a cosmic lottery. It is not because a waiting period finally expired on some invisible calendar. It is arriving because of a principle that has governed every meaningful transformation in history. Nothing faithfully invested is ever lost. Not the prayers offered in the dark when no one else heard them. Not the integrity you maintained in decisions where compromise would never have been discovered. Not the days you chose to keep becoming the person you were called to be, even when the evidence that it was working was zero. All of it, every single piece of it, was being invested somewhere you could not see. And investment, faithfully made, compounds. Now, I want to be honest with you here, because I think honesty serves you better than anything else. This is not a guarantee of a specific outcome on a specific date. I cannot tell you that on a particular morning next month, the exact thing you have been waiting for will arrive at your door. That would not be truth, that would be a performance. What I can tell you is this: faithfulness has a direction, and that direction is always toward completion. And now I want to name specifically what you did, not in generic terms. I want you to hear the actual inventory of what the last season contains, because most of you have not yet honored it. You stayed when leaving would have been reasonable, and when the people around you would have completely understood if you had walked away. You maintained your integrity in private, in decisions that no one would ever have known about, in moments where the shortcut was right there, available and convenient, and no one was watching. You kept believing, even imperfectly, even on the days when belief felt more like a stubborn habit than a living conviction. You showed up for people and purposes that had not yet shown up for you. You chose the harder path again and again, because something deep in you recognized it as right, even when you could not explain why. That is not small. That is not ordinary. That is the specific substance of what is about to surface. I cannot know your exact story. I hold that with genuine humility. But I know this pattern. And what I see in the person who is still here, still listening, still asking the question, I see the fingerprints of someone who did not quit. Now, I want to show you one more figure from ancient wisdom, because his story illuminates something that Joseph's does not. David was anointed as king while Saul was still on the throne. The gap between the moment God said, "This is the one," and the moment David actually sat on the throne was years, not weeks, years. And in those years, when he was still in the field, still in the hidden season, he was not passive. One day, a lion came for the sheep. There was no one watching. No audience, no record, no witness, except David and the animal. And David faced it. Then a bear came. And David faced that too. When Goliath showed up, years later, David did not say, "I will try." He said, "I have done this before." What the hidden season produced in David was not a title. It was a private knowing of what he was made of, earned in the dark, that no one could give him and no one could take from him. Chosen one, your hidden season gave you that same thing. And now, something in the atmosphere is confirming it. There are signs, not dramatic, not impossible to miss, but specific, and I want to name them, because if you are experiencing any of these, they are not coincidences. The first sign is an unusual clarity arriving in decisions that used to feel impossible, as though something has quietly reorganized in your interior, and the noise that once made everything complicated has begun to settle on its own. The second sign is that people are appearing in your life who seem specifically aligned with where you are going, not where you have been, not the connections of the old season, something new, something you did not arrange. The third sign is an unexplainable sense of rightness, not certainty about every detail, something deeper, a feeling that the ground beneath your feet is solid in a way it has not been for a long time. The fourth sign is that the old anxieties about your worth and your timing feel less loud than they used to. They may still be there, but they no longer have the same authority over you that they once did. And the fifth sign is restlessness. But pay careful attention to the quality of it, because this restlessness is not anxiety. Anxiety contracts. This expands. It feels less like fear and more like something at the gate, ready to move. It is readiness wearing the disguise of impatience. If you are living in any one of these, you are not imagining it. Something has shifted. Not because of the calendar, not because of circumstances in the world outside, because of what you did in the hidden one. But I have not yet told you the full picture. Because everything above the purpose of the wilderness, the causal nature of your faithfulness, the signs of arrival, all of it is about to be recontextualized by something deeper. There is a truth I want to bring you to, and it is the one that makes everything above snap into place, not just in your mind, in the thing you feel in your chest right now. That is where we go, in part 2. Chosen 1. Welcome back. I want to begin with something I should have said at the very start of all of this. When you heard the title of this message, "It All Comes to an End," tomorrow, what did you feel in the first second? If there was a flash of something uncomfortable, a tightening somewhere, a part of you that braced as if preparing for loss, I want you to notice that, because what just moved through you was the last echo of a season that has trained you to expect that what arrives is a consequence, that what comes to an end is always something good being taken away. But I want to show you something. In the original Greek, there is a word, telos. It is often translated simply as the end. But telos does not mean termination. It does not mean cessation or failure or loss. Telos means the arrival at purpose, the completion of the thing that was always meant to become what it became. When something reaches its telos, it is not finished in the way that a candle burns out. It is fulfilled in the way that a journey arrives at exactly where it was always going. What is ending in your life has reached its telos. And I want to name specifically what that is, because I think you need to hear it with clarity. It is not the calling. The calling does not end. It is not the purpose. The purpose is just beginning its visible expression. It is not the blessing. The blessing is not running out. What is ending is the invisible ceiling, the compression, the underground season where everything was growing in the dark. That is what ends, not because it failed, because it is complete. There is something that happens inside a chrysalis that most people have never been told. A caterpillar does not simply rearrange its parts inside that cocoon and emerge with wings. What actually happens is far more radical than that. The caterpillar dissolves completely. Its entire structure breaks down into what biologists call imaginal cells, formless, undifferentiated. And from that dissolution, an entirely different creature is rebuilt. The butterfly is not a transformed caterpillar. It is a caterpillar that fully surrendered to becoming something it had never been before. The cocoon was never its home. It was its formation vessel. And when the butterfly is ready, not when it is comfortable, not when the environment outside looks safe and welcoming, but when the formation inside is complete, it pushes against the wall of the cocoon. That resistance, that pushing, that difficulty of breaking through that is not the butterfly suffering. That is the butterfly activating the exact wing muscles it will need in order to fly. A butterfly that is helped out of its cocoon by someone cutting it open will not be able to fly. The resistance is the preparation. The season you are coming out of was not your home. It was your formation vessel, and the resistance of it built the specific strength your wings were always going to need. But here is where I need to say something that I want you to receive honestly, not defensively. Even as everything I just described is true, there is something inside you that is working to argue against it. I know what that voice sounds like. I want to name it, because naming it removes some of its power. It sounds like this. What if I did not do enough? What if the faithfulness I managed was not the caliber that qualifies? What if I stayed for the wrong reasons, or left something undone that would have made the difference? And beneath that voice, there is usually a quieter one. Everyone else seems to have already moved into their new season. Why am I still here? Is there something specifically wrong with me? I want you to hear me on this. That voice, the one that compares your timing to someone else's timeline, the one that cross-examines the quality of your faithfulness, that voice is not wisdom. It is not discernment. It is the final defense of the old season, making one last attempt to convince you that you belong under the ceiling that is already lifting. And I hold this with genuine humility, because I cannot see every corner of your story. But what I can tell you is this. The doubt you are feeling in this specific moment is not evidence against your elevation. It is the final examination of it. Every season of formation ends with a test of whether the person will believe what is true before the evidence is fully visible. You have been passing that test for longer than you know. Now, I want to speak to who you are. You are the light bearer, the one who carries illumination into spaces that have been confused and darkened, and the people in those spaces have been waiting for your light without knowing they were waiting. You are the spiritual warrior who did not break in the hard season, and I want you to sit with what that actually means, because most people do not survive what you survived with their calling still intact. You did. That is not a small thing. That is the whole thing. You are the builder, and what you are about to step into is not just for you. What you build from this season forward will outlast the season that formed you. It is designed to. You are the pioneer. Pioneers do not go first because they are without fear. They go first because their calling requires a first person. and you were made to be that. Now, before I bring you to the deepest truth in this message, I want to pause on something practical, because the spirit of the chosen one has been prepared by years of formation that is real, and I believe it fully. But there is another instrument that also needs to be aligned for what is coming, and it is the one most people overlook: the mind. There is a body of research coming out of MIT, Harvard, Stanford, and Princeton that has identified the specific brainwave state associated with what most people intuitively call flow, synchronicity, and deep intuition. The state where decisions arrive with unexpected clarity, where the right connections seem to find you rather than the other way around, where what was once effortful becomes effortless. Scientists have a name for this state. They call it gamma. When researchers study the brainwave signatures of people in peak creative states, of monks who have practiced meditation for decades, of moments that people describe as sudden knowing or divine clarity, they all carry the same measurable signature: gamma activation. What the scientists were measuring in their laboratories, the chosen one's spiritual tradition had always known by a different name: God-given frequency. The same heightened clarity, the same deepened sensitivity, the same quality of perception that the ancient texts describe as eyes to see and ears to hear. Science did not create this. Science simply found the mechanism. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake, with 34 years of research behind him, made a discovery that redirected the course of his work. The gamma brainwave, which is fully and freely active in children, you can measure it. It is extraordinary in a 7-year-old. That natural brightness and openness and rapid learning begins to decline. Systematically, he called it the decline effect, and he identified what triggers it: not age, not genetics, but the accumulated weight of a modern environment that was never designed for the frequency the chosen one was born with. The good news is that the decline is not permanent, because the gamma frequency is not gone. It is dormant, and dormant is not the same as lost. Dr. Lake spent years developing a way to reactivate it, not through years of daily meditation practice that most people cannot maintain, not through biofeedback equipment that costs anywhere from $300 a session to $7,000 for a home setup. He compressed the technology into a 7-minute audio track that you listen to with headphones, eyes closed. The original price is $49. But because Dr. Lake has always wanted this to reach the people who genuinely need it, not only those who can comfortably afford it, for those watching this specific message, the price is $39. You will not find that price on Amazon. You will not find it anywhere else. This is the only place it exists. And with that, you also receive 4 additional items at no extra cost. Genius Child, an audio track to support the children in your life. The original book that the film The Secret was drawn from, currently $20 on Amazon, yours at no charge. A guided visualization covering the 4 areas of life that matter most. And an infographic of the 5 habits most critical to the season you are stepping into. All of it covered by a 100% money-back guarantee with no time limit and no conditions. What I want to say clearly is this: this is a tool, not a miracle. The miracle is already in motion. What you built in the hidden season, the formation that happened in the dark, that is the miracle. This is simply about ensuring your mind is operating at the capacity your spirit has already prepared you for. That the instrument is tuned for what the formation made you ready to receive. One thing I want to be direct about: there are many sites and products online using the name Genius Song, and they are not the same thing. The actual brain entrainment technology, the specific frequency work that makes this function, cannot be replicated by simply attaching a name to an ordinary audio file. If you encounter it anywhere else, through any search, you will not be receiving the complete product. The only source I can confirm contains the full technology, all 4 bonuses, and the money-back guarantee is the link in the description and the pinned comment of this message. If this resonates, if you feel called to align the instrument with the direction your spirit is already moving in, that link is there. For those who don't feel that, that is completely fine. We continue. Because the deepest truth is still ahead, and it is the one that recontextualizes everything I have said before it. You have been told by this message and by many others that you are waiting for a blessing, that something is coming to you, that the next season is primarily about what you will receive. I want to gently shift that frame. What is coming is not primarily what you will receive. What is coming is what you will become visible as. Here is the deepest truth of this entire message. The hidden season does not end because circumstances change. It does not end because external timing aligns. It ends when the chosen one is no longer afraid to be seen. Not because they have achieved enough to justify the visibility, not because they have become perfect or polished or finished, but because what was formed in the hidden season cannot be taken from them anymore. It is interior. It is structural. It is who they are, not what they have earned. You are not the same person who entered this season. Hold that for a moment, not as a phrase to be inspired by and then moved past. As a fact. The person who entered the wilderness, the one who was uncertain of the calling, who needed external confirmation to feel legitimate, who would have been destabilized by the opposition that you now simply acknowledge and walk past. That person does not exist in the same form anymore. They were dismantled, gently, thoroughly, and rebuilt into someone who can carry what is coming. Now, I want to show you how the three revelations of this message were always pointing to the same center. I told you that the wilderness had a purpose. What I did not yet say is that the purpose was you, not just what happens to you, not what you receive at the end. You, the person who became through it. I told you that your faithfulness was causal, that it produced something real. What I want you to hear now is that what it produced was not only personal. The fruit of your faithfulness is not just for you. There are people you have not yet met, and people you have known for years who have been waiting for you to become who you are right now. Your elevation is not a personal win. It is a provision for others. I told you that what was ending was the ceiling, not the blessing. What I want you to understand now is that the ceiling lifts not only over your own life, it lifts for everyone. Your life is designed to touch. You are the mechanism. You are the turning point. You are the before and after, not only of your own story, but of the people your calling was built to reach. You are the completed work. You are the evidence, not the evidence that things always work out the way we want them to. The evidence that faithfulness has weight, that formation has fruit, that what is done in the dark does not stay in the dark forever, that a chosen one who refuses to quit does not simply survive the hidden season, they come out of it as something the world was waiting for. It all ends tomorrow, the hiding, the compression, the season of doing everything right with no audience and no reward because of what you have done. Now I want to pray with you, not over you, with you. Because what we have walked through in this message deserves to be sealed, and I want to do that together. Wherever you are, in whatever position, in whatever room, just be present for a moment. This requires nothing from you except stillness. Source, God, the force behind all of this. We begin with gratitude, not performed gratitude. Real gratitude for the seasons that asked everything and returned silence, because that silence was not emptiness. It was the sound of roots going deeper than we knew. Thank you for the years of formation that felt like waiting but were in reality the most important work of our becoming. You saw every room where no one else was present. You witnessed every decision made in private, every act of faithfulness that had no audience and no reward. Every morning we chose to keep going when stopping would have been completely understandable. You counted what the world overlooked. You held what no one else saw. Now we release. We release the story that the hidden season means a hidden person, that what was formed in obscurity is meant to stay there. We release it. We release the old ceiling, the belief that this is as far as it reaches, as visible as it gets, as much as we are allowed. We release it. We release comparison to anyone else's timeline, anyone else's season, anyone else's version of what arrival is supposed to look like. We release it. We release the waiting identity, the part of us that practiced staying small for so long that small began to feel like safety. We release it. We release the doubt that we have not done enough. We release the voice that speaks limitation over a life that was designed for expansion. It has no ground to stand on anymore. It leaves now, and we activate. We call forth the light bearer in full. We call forth the builder who creates things that outlast the season that made them. We call forth the spiritual warrior who holds ground not only for themselves, but for the people standing behind them who are not yet strong enough to hold it alone. We call forth the pioneer who moves into uncharted territory so that the ones who follow do not have to move in without a path. We activate the right connections, the relationships held in reserve for exactly this season. We open the doors that were held closed, not by the wrong people, but by a version of the person standing here that no longer exists. That version is gone. The door opens. We protect what is rising. We cover what is being built from exposure before it is ready. We hold what has been lifted, and nothing calls it back down. And now we declare, slowly, with full weight behind every word, I am the completed work. I am the evidence of what faithfulness produces. I am the one who held on when holding on was unreasonable, and I am the one who breaks the surface now. The hidden season is finished. What comes next, I was made for. I do not go into it uncertain. I do not go into it asking for permission. I go into it as who I am. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it, and so it is. Give yourself 3 seconds. Just breathe. Before you go, if something in this message confirmed what you already felt, something you knew in a quiet place but had not yet heard spoken aloud, I want you to type the word complete in the comments. Not for me. As an act of your own acknowledgement, because what you walked through in the hidden season deserves to be witnessed, and you are allowed to be the one who witnesses it. And if there is a chosen one in your life, someone who has been faithful in silence, someone standing on the edge of everything we talked about today, send this to them. They may not be able to name what they are carrying, but they will recognize it here. You are not at the end of something good. You are at the beginning of what the good was always pointing toward. Go well.